The International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is your embassy in the heart of Israel, founded in 1980. From our headquarters in Jerusalem through our branches in over 80 nations and yours in Canada, we seek to challenge the church to take up its scriptural responsibility, to remind Israel of the promises made to her in the Bible, and to be a source of practical assistance to all the people in the land of Israel. On today's program, meet the Solar family, an inspiring story of selfless love, giving, and blessing. Our studio panel discusses questions about Zionism, the remarkable testimony of a miracle from severe burn victim Pastor Danny, an inside look of the Ethiopian Jews preparing to make Aliyah. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. Yes, I will uphold you with my righteous right hand.
We start to receive winds and hitting from the north, south, east. We ran the whole house, praying for each side of the house. It was so horrible. My name is Hickley Soler. I am from Puerto Rico, and I have been traveling here to serve at the feast for the past 8 years.
My name is Luna Colón. I'm from Puerto Rico, and I'm served here to the past 6 years.
We are serving as part of the Tabernacle Dance Company. When I get news about the feast, since that moment, it's like the Lord put something in our hearts, in our minds, in our life, to get more relationship with Jerusalem, with Israel. And 8 years later, we are here worshiping the Lord year by year and giving our best gift to the Lord as an offering to fill His throne of praise.
We want to show the people the blessing of God in our life and bring the same in our movements in all the nights in the Feast of Tabernacles.
For many team members, serving at the Feast of Tabernacles requires a commitment of time and finances. For the Soler family, it was a sacrifice that was also met with a miraculous provision.
We were hit by 180 miles wind since 11 p.m. until 6 p.m. the next day. The most hard part was we need to surrender because we have some power, some strength just holding, but we know that at the end we cannot fight until this. So we need to trust in the Lord and to start to declare that promise from the Lord of protection. In that moment we already don't have power and no connection, no Wi-Fi, nothing. But for some reason I start to receive notifications from Chloe and Stevie from the dance company. And the way that they ask, they say, "How are you? We want to know, how are you?" That simple question just let us know how the Lord wants to know, how are you? And nobody that we are right in the middle of the storm, He always wants to know, how is my son? How is my daughter? Our dance studio was founded 15 years ago. The name of our dance studio is Dansale Christian Dance Academy. And Dansale is like a meaning to dance to the Lord. It's our full-time job, but it's so important part, it's the main part of our ministry.
When we arrived in our dance studio, we saw the ceilings open and the whole big classroom is wet.
Everything around us was just destroyed. We are here by a miracle because at the beginning we feel that we can do this travel to Jerusalem because we need to be there. But the government said, you need to stay at home. And we understood in that moment that we can do nothing. But when the Lord wants to send you to Jerusalem, He just made it.
The Solers were traveling to the Feast of Tabernacles as a family Despite Puerto Rico's state of emergency and the San Juan airport being completely closed, the wonders of God's provision continued to be revealed when the Soler family discovered that they had been inexplicably assigned to a flight reserved for aid workers.
ICEJ is a big example of leadership, of compassion for our neighbor. We are not just coming here just to dance. I am part of the ICEJ. I am dancing here, but I am so proud of what I am doing with my gift to the Lord. And we feel so honored and so blessed to be here year by year and doing what we love and helping and supporting what the ICEJ loves. Our expectation is to start to rebuild together the studio and actually help the families or our students if they need something. We are not alone because God is with us. So if God is with us, who can stand against us? So
we want to bring hope and restore our island again.
Sometimes God takes you out of the storm and put in a different area just to refill you, just to rebuild something, just to encourage you so you can rebuild, you can restore, and you can help others to lift their hands and to start the restoration process.
You shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless your bread and your water, and I will remove sickness from your midst. No one shall be miscarrying or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. Up next, our studio panel asks the question, what is Zionism?
Welcome to our panel discussion on Inside Israel. I'm Christine Williams. Joining us today, Rod, Faitine, and Julio. Now, the question that we're posing is about Zionism. First of all, we're going to attempt to define Zionism, and we do realize that in this day and age, Zionism has become, which I am going to say, a controversial term, and it should not be a controversial term. A lot of people, and I'm throwing that for you to begin defining it, but let me just tell you my quick impression.
Okay.
Once a person recognizes Israel's right to exist, that's Zionism in a nutshell, is it not?
Absolutely. Well, I would say just very simply, Christine, that Zionism is a biblical conviction that God's promise to the Jewish people regarding the land is true and everlasting. In other words, God made a covenant with the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that the land belongs to them. Now, the issue very often is that people have a very difficult time with God's love for Israel or love for the Jewish people and the covenant that he made with them. I think Moses best summed this up when he said in Deuteronomy chapter 7, and I just want to quickly read this to set the tone, but in Deuteronomy chapter 7, verse 6, he said this. He says, "For you are a holy people to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you to be a people for himself, a special treasure above all the peoples on the face of the earth. And the Lord did not set his love on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any other people, for you were the least of all peoples, but because the Lord loves you, and because he would keep the oath which he swore to your fathers, the Lord has brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you from the house of bondage, from the hand of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. And here is the crux of the matter. Therefore, know that the Lord your God, he is God, the faithful God, who keeps covenant and mercy for 1,000 generations with those who love him and keep his commandments." So Zionism very clearly is a fulfillment of promise. So we could talk about political Zionism, but I'd like to focus on biblical Zionism, and we'll go from there.
Well, it becomes sadly political, because then you have other people saying, no, it's not your land, it's our land, and we're claiming this in the name of our religion. And that's where, inevitably, it ends up being always this veneer of politics whenever you get into discussions about Israel. I'm going to go to you next, Rod, about your view on what Zionism is and where you stand.
I think that, first of all, you're right. We serve a covenant God. God honors covenants. Covenants are much more spiritual and much more relevant than business arrangements. Covenants, God speaks in covenants. Zionism and Zion is an amazing word. It occurs about 154 times in the Bible. It is an interesting word. It's used first in the prophetic in Isaiah 52, chapter 1, or chapter 52, verse 1. And it is used, interestingly enough, for the first time in description. It's used in 2 Samuel. Let me just read this for you. Here is the first time it's used in Scripture, which is fascinating. It says, "Nevertheless, David took the stronghold of Zion." Took the stronghold of Zion. Now that's interesting. And he says, the same as the city of David. So to me, and as I understand this, I've seen it, people talk about it many different ways. They talk about Zionism this and Zionism that, and I hate Zionism. Zion, according to the Bible, is God's land in Jerusalem. That's the city of David, and that's the essence, the beginning of what Zion is. And so I'm for Zion. I'm for that.
Absolutely.
Because to be against that is to be against what God is doing, what God is saying.
Yes.
And so, it's important that we recognize that and make that distinction first.
Absolutely.
Well, that's really powerful. He might start preaching here.
I'm sorry. They're both two reverends,
I'm surrounded.
18, you go ahead now.
I just want to add, you mentioned that there's the biblical Zionism and there's political Zionism. I've noticed that there's actually a lot of non-religious people throughout the earth, Jewish and other, that actually believe that it's okay for Israel to have a nation and for Israel. And, if we look historically from a non-biblical conversation, though I completely value and am in line with the biblical conversation as well, just historically, the different motions that have been passed and declarations at the United Nations, historically, the war is a 6-day war, which was one. And so I think to say that as well, that there are people all throughout the earth that are Zionists, not necessarily for religious reasons, but just because they look at the scenario, they look at how history is shaken down, and they say, hey, this makes sense, that Israel should have its own geography in the earth,
absolutely.
and that it should be the geography that was given to them by a council of international leaders, and that they fought for and won.
And before I go into the next step, which is going to be controversial, because when you start dealing with the Palestinian issue, then Zionism is presented as no short of a beast. It's presented as something that's evil, something that's oppressive, and this is something we can't get away from. However, archaeological evidence has shown up the history, biblical history. Not only that, but I think it's important that people understand that there are Muslims who actually support Israel's right to exist. The book that I did, The Challenge of Modernizing Islam, the reformists and the modernizers, they believe in Israel's right to exist. In fact, many of them will say simply, why not? The whole region is Islam. Why not? Why not allow these people to live in peace on their historic land? That becomes the issue. However, Zionism ends up being presented as something dark, something oppressive, and this is something I think we need to, I'd like to hear your opinion on
The sad
that
commentary is that Zionism in Israel is presented as an apartheid state. And Israel is pictured as being a colonial power that is oppressing the poor Palestinians. And yet, the truth of the matter is that since the Jewish people have come back to the land, that land has begun to flourish. And the well-being and quality of life of the average, quote-unquote, Palestinian, even within the geographical boundaries of Israel, is so much higher. I have spoken to Arabs or Palestinians that live within the state of Israel, and I've asked them the question, if there was the two-state solution, if that became a reality, would you move out of the state of Israel and live in a Palestinian state? And all of them uncategorically said no.
Now that is very interesting. I'm going to tag on to that. There was a two-state solution under the League of Nations, and that was rejected upon the birth of Israel in 1948. A lot of people out there keep saying that Israel is trying to push out the Palestinians, rob them of their lands, but they don't realize that the whole area under the British mandate for Palestine was really Ottoman South Syria.
It's important, I think, to recognize that there's arguments, and the arguments are very public. Outside of the arguments, there's reality. And the reality is, and just like you, I've talked to many Arabs, many people who have been there, and they said, you know what? We didn't have running water, and then the Jews came in.
Absolutely.
We didn't have the infrastructure.
Women
we didn't
can
have
vote.
That's right, and all of this. And So there is a argument on the surface that is political, and I think
Propaganda, you would
that
say?
plays good in the media, plays good in the news.
Yes.
But the reality is, if you talk to the people on the ground there, which I have many times, they're just not for a two-state situation. I'll be honest with you, they're not.
That is
They're
so
not.
important.
Yeah.
18.
No, I would just say
comments.
I can echo that. I can remember speaking to a very prominent Jerusalem journalist who is Arab, who would constantly write pro-Israel articles just based out of his authentic experience. And so I just completely agree with what's being said here.
Yeah.
Yes. Any final words there about the whole notion of Zionism before we close?
Well, I believe that Zionism is God's idea. It's Bible prophecy being fulfilled. And we have the privilege in our generation to see this actually happening. I mean, previous generations prior to 1948 could only think about this and dream about that actually happening, but it was far from their consciousness in that sense. But they saw it happen. And we're privileged to see this modern day miracle of Israel or Zionism in full demonstration.
Being a blessing to the nations of the earth.
That's
Being a
Not
blessing.
only
Yeah.
the Israelites or the people of Israel, but the Arabs as well.
One of the things that I love about this, and I agree with both of you, totally agree with all of you,
I would too.
is the
Of course.
we're
agreeable.
The idea that we are seeing something that no other generation has seen. We are witnessing something that nobody else has witnessed. We're witnessing the coming forth of the state of Israel. God, who named Jacob Israel when he argued with him and they wrestled all night long at the river Jabbok, started this by using that name. And I think that's important for us to recognize we are in a unique time in history.
We are. Amen.
Great note to end on. Rod, Faitine, and Julio, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Christine.
We're going to go for a break. We'll be back with more Inside Israel after this.
Up next, the testimony of Pastor Danny, his remarkable vision of Yeshua, followed by miraculous healing.
What started as a normal morning for Pastor Danny Rao, in a flash turned into the most terrifying day of his life. He thought this was the end of his life, but it was just the beginning of his miraculous encounter with the man from Jerusalem.
My name is Pastor Daniel. I come from India. I'm the branch director for India, ICEJ. I can tell before that I am alive now, and it's a second life to me, which God has given to me. On 28th November 2016, I left Israel after the feast. And after I woke up at 6 o'clock, after I finished all the things, I tried to switch on my laptop, and the spark came, and my kitchen, it's blown by the gas. And after I come out, the two-story building, it fell down, and the neighbors, the 6 houses, roofs, all had blown up. And then I was alone in the room, and totally the room was dark. I unable to see anything, and the flames coming to me. I was praying to Jesus, and Jesus help me, take me from this room. And then it took me 15 minutes to come to the street. And then I called auto myself, and then I went to the hospital 6:30. The doctor said, we need a police and the money. And then I said, now I need treatment. They said, no, we need money and police. Like that, I changed 3 hospitals. Finally, 9:30 with that burnings, I went to one of the hospital, and then they started giving treatment. So 3 days I was in the hospital, struck, unable to move my fingers and neck and the legs. And the 4th day early morning, one man, he appeared in my vision. He told me, why you are crying? And then I asked him, who are you? And then he told me, I know you from Jerusalem, so what you want now, tell me. And then I said, if you are from Jerusalem, I want to move my fingers and legs. I want to walk right now. Doctor said it takes 6 months here. And then he said, come on, start right now. Then I started moving my fingers, which struck 3 days. And then the same early morning, I was walking in the room, and all the nurses hospital nurses and the other patients, they came to see me. Pastor is walking in the room. And that happened in the 4th day. And I lost my hair, my mustache, my eyebrows, everything totally ash. And then I was praying the Lord. After God has visited me, I built my faith myself. I was very strong in faith. And the 5th day, they peeled all the dead skin. 4 kilos of the skin came out. And 8th day, new skin started to forming. And 15th day, my hair grew. And the doctor came and he was shocked. Danny, what's going on in your body? And then I asked the doctor, please discharge me. And then he said, no, you should stay. But 9th day, he discharged me from the hospital to home. And my church and all the local pastors, churches, their faith grown up after they see me. I'm alive because Jesus is alive. So this happened in my life. I am here alive. My friends who travel to see me, they until 3 months they keep going to the hospital. They thought I am in the hospital, and from there they called me. They called me. Where are you? Which room? I said I am at home. They were really surprised. I was thinking and praying, Lord, why this happened in my life? What is the reason? Is it a demon attack or what is this? God has given me, and He took me through one of the challenge to carry His testimony to the people. So right now I am ready to do anything for God because of this, which He given to me a second life.
And I will bring you out from the peoples, and will gather you out of the countries in which you are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out.
Can you imagine waiting for 18 years to make plans for your future? Having dreams and aspirations inside of you, but you cannot plan your life because you are stuck between two worlds? This is the case for many Ethiopian Jews waiting to make Aliyah and return to their biblical homeland. I had the opportunity to meet a remarkable man named Ermias. Here is his story.
ኮርሚሊ ኤርሚያስ ገብሬ አኒ ኖላርቲፖ በጎንደር አኒ በጊል ሽሞና ይስሬ ከሃ ከሞሻቴም ስተባብቴም ቨራይቴም አናኽኑ ጋሪም ካኻይም ቅጻትፖ ካሸ ሚሸ ሾሮዮቶ በጋምሸ ለሚሸ ጋሬታ ኻይማዜ ካሸ የሽላኑ የታከሂላፖ አናኽኑ ሚስተሪም በሐኪም ለማሻላኒ ፖ መሐኬ ለሽሞና ይስሪም ሻኒ አኒ ሮጼ ባቲ ለህይወት روفي واني اكشف بكيتا يوداليف اني لو ميربو واتمي وديم بو كاشلانو لاخليت انخنو لوديم ايمان نخنو اولكم لاسرائيل اولو وكاشلانو لدات اول اني اكشف عمر باتي داني روصي ايماني كانيس لير اسرائيل ياس ايماني ياس تاليا اني روصي لهيوت خيال بصابا وغام لهيوت روفي لا زوريتا ام اسرائيل كياني خليك نام واني روت إلى زور بزي بشبلي لخيوت يهودي لو خابتا أخشلي إيميش دباريم شا نخنو يخوليم لا زور لك هلا نخنو أسميت كل دباريم بياخد ولخيوت يهودي بشبلي زي عمر ليوت بياخد ولا زلا خيتا تكبا بشبلي شاني خشبا ليروشاليم كاريغا يخدم شاي بات خلا بإثيوبيا هم لو كل كخايو ديم ما كور بإسرائيل وكلانو خايو خوش بيم הארץ הזאת יש לה חלב ודבש. אנחנו גם שרים את השיר הזה. ועכשיו אנחנו רואים שגם זה אותו דבר. יכול להיות אנחנו לא נמצא חלב ודבש בארץ ישראל בכל מקום, אבל אם זה המקום הקדוש, ואם אנחנו גם עובדים, יכול להיות שאנחנו מקבלים את הדברים, וגם תבינו לי, לחיות אם אנחנו נהיה עם המשפחה שלנו בארץ, נהיה שמחים. אם אנחנו נהיה עם המשפחה שלנו, נהיה שמח, וגם שהמקום הזה, השם נתן לנו, כדי שאנחנו נגור שם. ולזה אנחנו חושבים על ירושלים כל הזמן. שמעתי לכם, אני פה מחכה ל18 שנה כדי ללכת לארץ ישראל. אנחנו יודעים שאחרי שאנחנו הולכים יש כל מיני עבודות לעשות אותן, אבל בגלל הארץ וגם העם כי חזק יכולים לנצח את זה, ואנחנו מחכים את זה.
We conclude our program today with some sights and sounds within Israel. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to visit our website at www.icejcanada.tv or call us at 1-866-324-9133. Through your contribution to ICEJ Canada, you can participate by giving to Haifa Home for Holocaust Survivors, Women at Risk Red Carpet Project, Operation Life Shield, bomb-proof shelters, Shoulder to Shoulder, Aliyah support, Bet Singer Children's Home, Israel in Crisis, ICEJ Communication Media Fund, Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, Magen David Adam Emergency Services, Canada Israel Young Adult Scholarship, Equip and Teach, Bet Rachel Strauss Inclusive Community, Gift, Estate, and Securities Funds.